Please find your seat. We will start in 5 minutes. Hi everyone. Welcome to another Persian Tech Network. Actually, the last Persian Tech Network event in year 24. I'm Ahmad Reza Masroor, part of Persian Tech Network, and we are so glad to have you, every one of you here. Actually, we are here to connect, learn from, and support each other within our community. And before we get started, I'm gonna say a few words about Persian Tech Networks and review a few numbers together. Let me begin with a few questions. How many of you is the first time that you are here at Persian Tech Network? Amazing. And how many of you, let's say, have come to Persian Tech Network more than 10 times? Good, very good, amazing. And who remembers our first events back to late 2022? We started on the second floor. Just you. Perfect. As you know about the Persian Tech Network, we started Persian Tech Network in actually in October 2022 to build a community for Persian and Iranian entrepreneurship and technology to connect and learn from each other and support each other. And since 2022, we just had startup presentations. And after that, we added fireside chat to the Persian Tech Network since May 2023. And since then, we've held 20 events, consecutive events, with 31 speakers that they shared their journey, that amazing journey with us. And 62 startups have presented their ideas and latest innovations. Number of registration was over 14,700 registrations, and almost half of them attended to Persian Tech Network events. We are doing all of these efforts to build and maintain this community, to connect entrepreneurs and startups to their partners, to match job seekers to companies. And in general, we support each other within our community. So, and right now, I think it's your turn to participate and contribute to your community. We've built this infrastructure for ourselves and for you, and now I think it's your turn to contribute to your community. How you can introduce startups to this community. You can let us know about the successful entrepreneurs, successful investors to us that we can invite them to here and listen to their journey and so on. So without any further ado, I want to invite Mr. Saeed Nesbat to come on the stage and run the conversation. And please welcome Saeed Nesbat, and thank you so much. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Ahmad Reza Jan. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another session of Fireside Chat. I just want to add one thing to that, to what Ahmad Reza Jan said. How many of you consider yourselves entrepreneurs and you have a dream of starting a company and make billions of dollars? Come on, raise your hands. Don't be shy. You can't be shy and be an entrepreneur. You have to go like that. Okay. So, okay, you can drop your hands. This is an opportunity to learn from the best of the best. And, you know, I hope you hone your questions, prepare them, ask incisive, you know, critical questions that are important for you to guide you through your journey. And we have a guest, a visionary guest tonight who is an expert in his field. Kamran Bahar is a SVP and GM of Storage Technologies at Oracle Corporation. Among his technical passions are creating large-scale, highly available distributed systems. He is a formidable hands-on technologist an immensely successful entrepreneur and a true visionary. In 2004, around 2004, when distributed computing was not, out there and everybody knew about this, Cameron coined the phrase cloud computing. Now everybody is using it right now, and it's to his vision that we have that term. There is a lot more to be said about what Kamran does, and I invite him to come over here. Please help me give a warm welcome to Kamran Bahar, SVP of Oracle Technology. Can we have a microphone for Kamran, please? You can use mine.
So technical difficulties. Very nice to be here.
Thank you. And both of them are working. Very good. Thank you very much, Kamran John, for making the time to be over here. And usually we start from the beginning. We would like to.
How far back do you want to go?
What?
How far back do you want to go?
Well, we want to go to evolution and Big Bang. It's okay. But let's start with your life. You were born in Iran. Is my mic working? Yes. You were born in Iran. And you did your high school education in Iran?
Not high school, but middle school.
Middle school. And where did you go for your high school?
So, well, it was a tricky story because I was about 13, and we had all these plans. And the plan was I was going to go to England to learn English, and then go to university there, and then come back to Iran and, continue.
Yes.
So in the summer of '78, we went to England with a, carry-on, and for a 6-week English class. And my father called and said, "There's some commotion here. Maybe you should sign up in the fall and sign up for a regular school." And we said, "Well, we never packed. We didn't want to move yet." He said, "Well, it's not like a suggestion. It's kind of an order. Because if you come back, there's going to be commotion for 6 months, but it'll be fixed in 6 months." So we signed up for school and watched the revolution on BBC. And so 6 months later, that was February '79, and then basically I stayed, became an immigrant at that point, right, from '78. So I finished 7th grade in Tehran, and then, 8 through 12.
You stayed in England.
I studied in England. So, and then life was, so we made plans, okay, let's figure out this British system. You get O levels, A levels, and then you, as a foreign student, you have a quota system, so you apply.
Uh-huh.
And I got into Oxford University. So
Excellent.
My dream, and and then I got another call from my dad when I was 17. He said, "Yeah, there's a slight issue. We're all in California, and we can't seem to get a visa to come to England. So why don't you sell the apartment, sell the car, sell all the furniture, and pack everything up, 12 suitcases, and come to California?" So yeah, actually, I'm going to Oxford. I'll come later. He said, "You seem to think that was a suggestion, but
that's an order.
We can't support multiple locations. You need to sort of sell everything and come." And I said, "Well, nothing is in my name." He said, "You know how to forge my signature. Get creative." Right? So
Don't give people ideas. Just 1 second about timing. Rashad, can we have the timer on, please?
Oh yeah, that would be helpful. Timer, so I can start from scratch.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine.
And so I moved to California in '82, and my dad.
So your dad allowed you to go to Oxford?
No, he didn't. No, it was not an option. I said, "Come to California because
I see.
There was this thing called the revolution, and we need to all huddle together and figure out where we're going to be."
So at least you got your A levels.
I got my A levels,
which was important,
which was good, And then I came here, and they gave me a couple of pencils and said, "Next Saturday you take this SAT test, which is a piece of cake." And and now my kids are preparing and going to 6 months of classes. But my point is, like John Lennon says, life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans.
Uh-huh.
So I keep making plans, and then
30 minutes, please.
Life changes, and we have to react and adapt to these plans. So basically, I went to the nearest university there called UC Irvine. I had no idea about any U.S. university, so first place I signed up.
That's because your family was living
Family
over
was there in
Yes.
Orange County. That's where
Yes.
all the Persians go, apparently,
Yeah.
when they come here, right? And yeah, I studied electrical engineering and computer engineering, right?
And why did you study electrical engineering? Your
Why?
background, yes.
Well, I mean, I liked science. There was this magazine called Danishmand or something in Iran, and I
Yeah.
used to dream about, you know, being an astronaut and traveling to other, you know, sort of planets. And then I realized it's actually pretty lonely to sort of do that. So I figured, why don't I just make the spaceships instead? So physics and engineering was kind of interesting. So I went over that, you know, in that direction. I was always good at physics and math and technical, right? Not biology, and I didn't like, you know, biology. And you know,
So you got your BS in electrical engineering
yeah,
from Irvine,
yeah.
and then you got into business right away after that, right?
No, so
So what
again,
happened?
you know, I had one unit of research to take, and so I went and asked this professor to give me a simple thing because I'm a senior. I've worked pretty hard.
Professor Popek?
No, this is
Way before.
this is in Irvine, right?
This is in it.
And he said, why don't you use a, there was a graphics card, kind of like a GPU, and he said, why don't you draw circles and rectangles and stuff using this thing, and we'll give you one unit to satisfy your research. And I said, you know, I've worked pretty hard here. This is too hard. Can you give me something simple? And he said, well, we've got these 10 workstations from Sun Microsystems, and it's connected with a cable called Ethernet. So why don't you just write a program that runs 10 times faster on all these 10 machines? And so I said, okay, this is a piece of cake. I can do it over a weekend, you know.
That was the beginning
That
of
was the
your work
beginning
in
of this
distributed computing.
of this thing that I didn't plan on. And I went back to him and I said, the clocks on these machines are not synchronized. How do I synchronize them? And he gave me this smile, you know, ye labkhande ajibi da. But he gave me this paper about clocks and synchronization by Leslie Lamport. It's like, God damn, this is like relativity theory, right? It's actually very complicated. So then I couldn't solve this problem, and I ended up 30 years in this field trying to solve this distributed computing problem of
The
how do you
synchronization problem,
the
which is
synchronization problem of
which
how
is
do
the
you,
god of distribution system.
which is the foundation of cloud computing. So then I found out when he said Jerry Popek, I looked around to see who knows how to do this, because nobody at UCI had any idea how to solve it. And there was this professor called Jerry Popek at UCLA who was building distributed systems. So I went over there and I said, I want to do a PhD and solve this problem, right? Which I think, you know, from an entrepreneur perspective, you know, I think the gist of it is I ran into an interesting problem. It wasn't about money or fame or fortune or glory. It was like, oh, this is a interesting problem, and I got curious about it. And so I went to find people who were interested in the same problem and hung out with them in the PhD program. And again, another surprise happened. Halfway through, IBM came and talked to Jerry Popek and said, hey, Jerry, there's this guy, Bill Gates, and he's just screwed us with Windows.
It's interesting.
Right.
You said you went after a problem.
Right.
A lot of entrepreneurs, they find a solution. You know, something cute, they find that, you know, if you turn this one, it turns into this. And they look for a problem for that, which is often not a right way to start, you know, your business. The right way is to find a problem and focus on solving that problem. And that's what you did.
That's what I did.
And you followed Jerry Popek into
Followed Jerry Popek, and he ended up doing a startup for IBM to build the first distributed operating system, right?
Which was the basis for AIX.
Which was the basis for AIX. And basically all the people in the PhD program went to his startup. And so, yeah. And I said, well, I'm trying to finish my PhD. He said, yeah, but we're all going over there, so you can hang out here alone or you can come with us. So again, another life happens, right, when you're busy making other plans. And so we went after that guy, and then so I just sort of followed this path, right, into.
Okay, so where were the steps? You were at Locust, and you helped develop that system, which was the foundation. And then where does Parascale or Teradata come in? Which one was first?
Yeah, Teradata was another distributed system, and it's the first big data warehouse analytics database. If you heard of Snowflake, it's the original company. And again, these guys, built a database to compete with Oracle. And when I joined them, they said, yeah, looks like we're not really good at this. The database sucks at doing transaction processing. So when they talked to their first customer, she said, you should take this crap away because it doesn't work. And then so when they went to take it away, she said, why don't you keep it here anyway? I said, well, if it's so bad, why do you want to use it? He goes, well, I run my reports on it. And the reports are 10 times faster than if I run it on Oracle. So then they're like, oh, that's it. Decision support, data warehouse, analytics. And that became the foundation of analytics.
It might not be obvious to everybody over here. Let's go to the fundamental of why do we need distributed a data system?
Yeah, it's...
and you might want to talk about consistency a little bit. Yeah,
I see. Yeah, it's very technical. I don't want to bore you guys,
just
but
the overall thing. Why don't we deal with one computer?
The way it happened first was Ronald Reagan came and said we want to beat the Russians, and we want to build a shield around the U.S. So if they attack us, that we can SDI, Strategic Defense Initiatives. But we had all these computers called mainframes, and they were command and control, big centralized machines. So the problem was if the Russians hit a missile to one of these mainframes, then we lose our command and control. So can you build a distributed system that uses the internet so that if you keep shooting down these computers, there's no master. Everybody works together to solve a problem. But they have to agree, which means these nodes have to agree and come to a consensus. So if you look at Bitcoin is another distributed system with cryptography. These nodes have to agree that this has happened. But they all have different clocks and they're on different parts of the world. So you've got to figure out this consensus problem, right? And the other thing is when you build these Lego building blocks, it ends up being 10 times cheaper, 10 times faster than mainframe. So you saw with Unix and Linux and now cloud computing, right? All of those old players don't exist anymore. So does that make sense? That's kind of what it is, right?
No. And then we get into cloud computing, which is an Uber way of managing all of these together. Why do we have cloud computing and just not distributed and synchronized systems?
So we had distributed systems, and then what we saw was Microsoft and others, as I did these various projects, wanted a system to effectively pay for what customers use. They wanted a system where you provision a resource like electricity. When you plug in your toaster into the plug here, you don't worry about the PG&E, grid that's behind you. And so people were like, well, I don't want to build the giant grid and have that complexity. I want to use computers like electricity. So I want to pay per hour, per month for what I consume. I don't want to buy millions of dollars worth of equipment. Right, that's what customers wanted. That led to this notion of cloud computing, which is building large-scale systems, but hiding it under what we term the cloud. And it's a funny story because we had a startup to build this thing, and we called it a grid and a virtualized network and compute, all these names. And I was sitting in the office talking to my architect, and I said, Oleg is a Russian guy. I said, Oleg, I hate these names. Everybody thinks we're in high-performance computing or some scientific research. They don't get this. And he said, explain it to me. And I was using a program called Visio, which has a little cloud for network stuff. And I drew a little cloud, and I said, yeah, you put all these computers in the cloud, and you don't really care what's in it. You just use what you want. And whatever happens, we handle the failures. And he said, why don't you just call it that? I said, what? He said, cloud. I said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Nobody knows what a cloud is. He said, that's okay, but it's better than all these other names, right? Why don't we try it? So we changed our PowerPoint and put cloud everywhere. And then we went to Sand Hill Road, up and down Sand Hill to VCs. And one of the good ones said, Cameron, you guys look like smart guys. This cloud thing, a cloud is full of vapor. And so is this idea. why don't you guys go build a social network or do a YouTube channel or something? Like, this stuff is just really stupid. It's beneath you, you know. So point being, again, when you're first and you see a pattern, it's not obvious to investors because they're pattern recognition machines.
And included in that idea, as you alluded to, is the scalability. As much as, you know, you provide the system and they don't have to use all of it, like AWS is like that.
Right.
So what else comes in with this one? Reliability, redundancy, scalability?
I think it's like, you know, it's almost like operating a restaurant. When you go to a restaurant where the chefs are actually making the dishes, but the waiters are serving you, and the food is better be right, and it better be hot, and the price has to be right. So it's a service delivery system. And so your IT department and your infrastructure is all one and the same. So when I run a cloud, as soon as it goes down for 5 seconds, I get a call from the big customer, explain why you were down for 5 seconds, right? So I have to deliver a service. So almost 50% of our resources are spent on what we call KTLO, which is keep the lights on. So when you say, what is it, right? It's the network cables, and it's the data center, and it's the power, and the generators, and the redundant coolers. We had a case where fans go off. If a fan goes off, then this part of the room gets hot, the GPUs catch on fire. This stuff actually happens, right? So we're in this business of basically taking over all of the IT infrastructure that companies used to buy, and then using the internet to just give them a conduit.
Aggregate them, put them in one place.
And so availability, reliability, all of that, and we can't lose any data, right?
Let me bring you to the present, that you're the manager, the owner, the god of OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure.
Yeah.
So what are the strengths of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and what are its weaknesses? Who are your competitors? Draw us the landscape.
Well, so Oracle is late to the party. There's Amazon and Google and Microsoft. They're top 3. And so we're number 4, but we're growing much faster than the top 3 because we're smaller. But one of the things we did when I joined was look at, I think this applies to entrepreneurs. I asked the team, one of my mentors used to tell me, a man's got to know his limitations. It's a line from a Clint Eastwood movie. And that means you got to know yourself, take stock of yourself. And so when we looked at it, you know, Amazon is $100 billion revenue. You know, who are we? Can we ever catch up? And, you know, the answer was, we'll never reach AWS if we chase them and copy them, right? You'll get somewhere, and we had gotten someplace, but how is Oracle different? And Oracle basically has enterprise customers, 200,000 of the top enterprise customers. So we're very good at dealing with large customers. So we focused on helping very large customers. We have almost very little number of startups.
And also they're locked into the database.
They're locked into the database, but we hardly do any startups. So small people don't show up, but we're very good at handling big people. And so we focus on that. And then we focus on innovation, which is do things faster and cheaper. So, you know, you got to build new stuff, right? And so if you're twice as fast, half the price at scale, then like Uber is 30% of all the Uber rides are now on OCI. All the Zoom calls are on OCI. You know, social networking stuff is on OCI. So it's real. It's not Oracle databases. They're all new business, right? But if you can show a sustainable advantage, and one of the differentiators, we don't compete with our customers, right? So we don't have retail, we don't have GPU, we don't make all this stuff ourselves. We just do computing.
So speaking of GPU, how has the introduction and the acceleration of AI into everything has changed your business and your thinking of OCI?
Yeah, so you know, if you go back like 18 months, nobody talked about AI, right? Yeah. It's like literally not on the radar. Again, we had plans, lots of plans. And what we do really well is when the world changes, you react to it. And so we're seeing a tsunami. And if you look at it, we've got like the top 5 AI companies as our customers now, because we provide AI infrastructure. But we literally, what we do is change all our plans to focus on this new market at the expense of the traditional enterprise market. So all of us turned on a dime, because OCI is like a little startup within Oracle. So we act fast. Mm-hmm. We act fast, we break things, but 9 out of 10, we seem to figure out. We don't know what the answer is, but like I said, half the time we win because we have the attitude.
That's your challenge.
Which is like, just lean in and, go into the deep end. Either you drown. It's like jumping in a pool. It's really scary. Whether you do a startup or a new project or whatever in a big company, you dive into the deep end, and then often you survive, right? If you don't survive, it doesn't matter. You're dead anyway, right? So nobody cares. Valley, if you come up, then you find out who you are, what your capabilities are, and then you surround yourself with people who fill those gaps. Like I say, in my team, whether it's a startup or Oracle, I am like the coach, right? And I may play one position in the field, but I can't do defense, offense, midfield, everything. And I have to know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, which is much more important. And I ask people that, and they have a hard time telling me what they're not good at. They all know it, but they're all pretty shy. But we try to find other people in our team who are good at things that I'm not good at. And then the team combination as a sports team, it's like that analogy seems to work.
Mm-hmm. We'll get to the fears and the challenges that you have. But one thing I want to ask you, you told me NVIDIA is your customer. Yeah. What are they doing being your customer? They have their own.
They don't have a cloud, right? They have a DGX cloud, but it runs on top of our cloud.
Are you the only cloud that they're using? Or
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
That they resell, right? They resell to their customers. But, it's kind of like NVIDIA, right? Most people can do one thing really well. If you look at Intel, like it's in disarray, right? Because they keep trying to do lots of different things instead of focusing on the one thing they're good at. Mm-hmm. And we're good at building IT and infrastructure and databases and infrastructure. NVIDIA knows how to make a GPU. Mm-hmm. That's it. So when they try to come and build a cloud, they're going to have challenges.
They don't even make it. They design it, somebody else
somebody else builds it, right? So we find that, the people who are doing large-scale LLM training, they don't know anything about the infrastructure. Mm-hmm. They just have, like XAI, Elon Musk is my customer. They have 12 engineers. The whole company was 12 people, right? 12 mm-hmm. people, that's it. Mm-hmm. They have one guy for infrastructure. So, they know about the LLM training, but how do you provide 20,000 GPUs to people on a fast network across many buildings, right? With the power, 100 megawatt power, that sort of thing. Like so when you say how AI has shifted everything, it's shifted everything. Right. It's a massive tsunami, and we've got lots of opportunities for people to do innovative stuff. The power, the cooling, the physical space.
Yeah, those are physical challenges, and we've discussed some of them over here, especially the problem of power, which is a different area. I want to take you back to your personal challenges from a lowly researcher up to a general manager as Oracle. Did everything work smoothly for you, or
it was a piece of cake?
So usually you learn from those downs rather than those ups. So what were some of the challenges, some of the failures that made you, and what are your suggestions or advice for people who are becoming entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I mean,
tell us some
examples. I never dreamed
of
being an entrepreneur per se. Mm-hmm. Like, I got to do a startup. I focused mostly on impact because I looked at people, and luck has a lot to do with it, right? But I found out if you focus on impact, then if what I do impacts a lot of people, then I win. I'm successful. Now, sometimes money comes with it, Sometimes it doesn't. Oftentimes, the most interesting work I've done, I've made zero money on it because the enterprise that I did it at went bankrupt. And then you make money randomly at some other job that you didn't even work that hard on. Maybe you don't deserve it. And when I looked at all my friends, this is what's consistently happened to people. That the success, the financial success that they get often comes randomly in one of these adventures, right? The name of the game is to be in the game and stay in the game and believe in yourself. Now, I know it's cliche, but when I was doing the cloud and everybody laughed and I had maybe 9 to 12 people working for $1 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, and they got to feed their families and you're not getting funded. I actually went and mortgaged my house twice because interest rates kept coming down, so I kept looking at an ATM and at some point my wife bought me a book called Who Moved My Cheese and she put it next to my bed to read it. And my friend one time talked to me and said, Cameron, there's no shame in parking this idea on the bench. Get a job, save your family, right? Credit card bills were high. So you're in this, you often get tested, and, I was near divorce. Not divorce, but you know what I mean? Like life was tough, right? Mortgaged the hell out of my house. And all the VCs are like, we don't know what this is. It's full of vapor. But every time I talk to customers, they say, when is it ready so we can buy it? I was like, wait a minute. All these customers want to buy it, but these guys don't get it. So that's where you get tested. And one of my seed investors, in fact, Mr. Amidi is one of the seed investors in Parascale.
He's sitting right there.
One of them, told me like, hey, maybe you should park this and do something else for a while. There's no shame in it. And I told him, I said, look, if it bothers you, I'll give you your money back and you can take off, but I'm not giving this up, right? And literally a few months after that, our luck changed because Google published a paper and people were like, oh, is what you're doing similar to what Google did for themselves? I'm like, yeah, of course. He goes, why don't you say so? Because it's a pattern we can recognize.
So certainly tenacity is one big element of becoming successful in the entrepreneurship. But could you tell us an example of a technical issue that, it produced nothing and it was a failure for you, but you learned from that? I'm trying to get to the point that not everything works in the realm of...
Yeah, I mean, I think, you've got to try and...
was there anything that you failed at?
Yeah, many things, right? So
could you give us a big example?
The point is, like, the beauty of this thing, this game is rigged in your favor, right? You gotta, if you do 20 things in your life, only one of them has to actually work for you to then sort of make it. And, what's interesting is, you do stuff. I built, in 1992, I built a router. Right? I was 20-something. I didn't know what I was doing, but we built a router to connect offices together, kind of like the beginning of the internet. And had bad partners. We didn't have enough funding. We didn't know what we were doing. And, anyways, it turned badly. But I learned a lot about networking. And then when I did the next thing with Parascale, there was a lot of networking elements in it. So that helped me with, with that, right? We went to Scale 8, which was the first cloud object storage system before S3 in the year 2000. $80 million investment, we're running a service, and the internet blew up. And the VCs pulled the plug and said, the internet is dead, everything is dead, you guys go home. Okay, well, shit, what are we gonna do now, right? So I started Parascale, right? Because, the demand was there, but that whole thing failed. But we learned what not to do from all those failures. So then it's funny, in my startup, I told my architect, this guy, John Muth, he's a particularly interesting guy. I said, John, we've done this sort of thing 3-4 times. So this time, we're gonna get it right. It's gonna be perfect. He said, no, Cameron, we'll just make new mistakes, right? And again, in our startup, we made a bunch of new mistakes, right? And what we didn't want to build data centers and worry about power and networking, and AWS decided to build all of it themselves. Now they had, billions to invest, but that model won. My model got sold to a bigger company. So, another mistake. But that experience led me to do the next thing and the next thing. And now at Oracle, I learned all that stuff. So when I come to Oracle, now I can add more value, right? So it's it's easy looking back. If you go back, it's easy to say, what led you here. But when you're in it, you kind of don't know. And again, I repeat, you got to get to know yourself. It's a cliche, but you got to know who you are, what your ability is. Surround yourself with really smart people that you respect and you trust. Trust is a key thing for me. And hold on a minute. And go towards solve a problem that you're interested in and you're passionate about. So that even if you don't get paid, you still do it. So in my space, even if I don't get paid, I keep working on this stuff because I actually like it. So it's nice that I get paid for doing what I like. So that's sort of the key is kind of align yourself and your interest with what you like, and don't worry about the rest. The rest will come.
And I want to follow your advice and use it right here. We have a very smart person over here with a lot of experience, and I want to ask you, what do you see the future of computing, distributed computing would be? What are the challenges and how are we going to solve them? We know there's going to be a problem with the transmission lines and energy and all that, but what's the technology that is going to change in the future to support or to alleviate all these problems that we are identifying? How do you see the future in your area?
Oh, it's hard to it's hard to predict the future, but you can see about 3 years ahead.
Especially the future, yeah.
You can look at the technology-wise. You can see what the chips are coming. You can see the memory. You can see the network. You can see the software, and you could do a back of the envelope and see on the roadmap of these companies about 3 years forward.
What's the biggest challenge that you see is going to come to us? Besides the power, that's something else.
Besides power, I think, it's this
volume of data that we're going to use because of the
concentration of all of these computers in very large central places, and the loss of any one of these things will take out the IT infrastructure of many companies.
Isn't there redundancy?
Yeah, but
or shouldn't be.
There is, but half the people can't afford it, and the other half, the speed of light gets in the way because things are not so. But it's not easy. In other words, when AWS region goes out, all of a sudden, lots of businesses go out, right? I think security and privacy, and when you had all your computers in your own house, it was pretty safe. But it's literally out there, and these systems are extremely vulnerable. So,
security and privacy.
I think, because it's tricky because in fact, this guy got shot, right? United Healthcare. This year it's public. They had a ransomware attack, and the ransomware came and took over everything. So I get a call on Saturday.
This is for United Healthcare?
Yeah.
Okay.
They get a call. It's like United Healthcare. I said, well, they're not our customer. I said, yeah, but we have a life issue because people are not, the systems are down. People can't get their prescriptions, so they're literally dying. So we're going to have to help them. And the guy says, I have a private jet with a bunch of hard drives on it. Where do you want me to send it? Where do you want me to send the jet so I can bring my business up?
Wow.
And the White House told them, by Wednesday morning, you have to be up. And it's Saturday morning. So they paid $20 million in Bitcoin. To the ransom guy.
Wow.
But meanwhile, all their data centers, everything is out, right? And people are dying because they can't get their prescriptions. It's a literal story from 2024, right? And we had to bring them to the cloud, but it's those things I think that are kind of challenging.
For more challenge, I rely on people in the audience, and
Let me ask some
and
questions.
I'm hoping they have some questions for you. Raise your hands, please, and we'll have a microphone, hopefully. Dr. Murthy over here, he has a question. John, can we get? Meanwhile, if you have a question, please raise your hand so it will register with me. We have overhead. That's Amin? Okay. Amin is going to be in a second. John, over here. Amin. That was the first question. Yeah. No. That's the first question. Let's no. Let's follow the.
Yeah, fairness.
Thank you, Saeedji. Yeah. You didn't mention, both of you did not mention multi-cloud. It's going to be
Multi-cloud, you said?
multi-cloud.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're familiar with all that, I know.
Yeah.
Multi-cloud. So you didn't mention, both of you didn't even bring that point.
Yeah.
Any reason or, you know?
No, it's just most focused on what people are interested in instead of technology. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but
Oracle has a big multi-cloud strategy, and
Okay.
we are actually now in every cloud.
Yeah.
So even if our cloud fails, you
That's
can
exactly what the multi-cloud is supposed to do.
Yeah, 100%.
And choose the best part from best service.
Pick
and
the
other
best,
service.
yeah.
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 Okay, just want to make
Oh, for sure.
Thank you. Amin Vatani. No, you have a microphone. Hold on.
He doesn't need it.
No, because it gets
Working?
recorded. So.
Carmen, so listening to your story, you're a man with big imagination, like early days.
Yeah.
So these days, when you're alone, when you're in deep thinking, what are your stuff that you're dreaming about? What are the stuff that you think about these days?
I think about like retirement. When am I gonna stop working?
So
kind of when are you guys gonna, you hand off the baton to the next generation so you guys can do the heavy lifting, right? No, I actually, yeah, it's a good question. I mostly worry about my kids. I got 2 boys, and
How old are they?
19 and 22. So trying to see if I can
2 men. Yeah.
sort of just be around, right? One of the challenges is, in my startup, I was not around. And so I chose to work for 10 years in large companies so I could be home on weekends. Because in the startup, I would go at 9 a.m., they were already gone to school, and I'd come home at 9:30 p.m. And so for several years, I didn't see my kids grow up. And so you're busy trying to like make it in the world and provide for your family and sort of make a name for yourself. And you often kind of lose sight of that. And I'd seen other friends who'd gone too much into just work. And then when they end, they've got the success, but then the kids aren't happy. Like you've lost that connection. So I actually purposefully planned to work for 10 years in big companies, and that just finished this month, right? And my kids are both now in college, and they're they don't want to talk to me anymore. So but I like, I think, what I'm excited about in the future, that kind of what you asked about, what do I dream of? I mean,
What is it you think about, like when you're alone?
I think about, finance, distributed finance, like blockchain and Bitcoin, and kind of enabling the citizens of the world to have safety. It's not so important for us in the U.S. because supposedly it's a free country, and we got all these bankings. But I remember when revolutions happened in my country and other countries, various people's banks and assets were frozen, and so one day you're doing fine, and then the other day you worry about how you're going to pay for your next meal. So, back in Iran in '79, if there was Bitcoin, a bunch of people would have a few Bitcoins maybe, and then they could feed their families, right? So I think that's a powerful thing in a global sense, to have a distributed system, which is my passion, with security, and allow people to kind of bypass the banking system in some sense, right? I think that's very interesting. And I thought the governments would ban it, but apparently they're endorsing it, which is a surprise to me, but I think that's very interesting. And AI/ML is, that's the other thing, right? It's, what's the impact? because most people think linearly. Humans think linearly, but technology grows exponentially. And two things I'll say to that. One is, in 5 years, this stuff is growing 5 to 10x a year, not 1.8x like Moore's law. It's much faster. And so, what will these systems be able to do, and how will it displace regular jobs? That's one. And at the same time, it's amazing because it can do a lot. So how do we balance that, right? I think about that. And there was one thing else about exponential thing I just wanted to leave with you guys, right? Most people don't understand exponential growth. So when you look at somebody like me and it's like, oh, how come he did all this stuff? And somebody with 30, 40 years experience, if you continuously learn and just improve 1% a month to month, nobody will notice anything. But if you actually use the compound interest formula, when you get to 20, 30, 40 years, you'll reach this part of the curve, and then all of a sudden you've got so much experience, and people wonder like, why is he so good, right? But it's all these incremental improvements. So it almost doesn't matter whether you succeed or fail, as long as you're alive and you do the next thing and you just keep going and you iterate. You need to reach that part of the curve, and then you become pretty valuable to everybody because you've improved. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And for the last question, we go to Mani over here.
Thank you. Just I want to.
Mani Jan, tell us who you are and what's your affiliation.
My name is Mani Rezai. I'm doing nothing. Yeah, I have a question about, you talked about your team and the trust.
Yeah.
And for example, if you, from tomorrow, you have a big suggestion from, I don't know, somewhere, how many of your team members you will take with you?
Yeah, it's not how many I will take, it's how many will follow me.
Somehow,
right?
yeah.
And so I always judge leaders by the company they keep. So when you look at somebody in my team, did his previous company's people follow him? That means he has a pull and is a strong leader. So I have a value system I've defined, I've actually written it down, right? But trust is sort of the first element. I don't want to get into it. It's another philosophical discussion. But treating people well, I think I would say, I tell my team, we go into lots of different buildings with different logos over time, but the people remain the same. So don't get carried away and abuse people and abuse their trust if you're in a position of power, because you'll find at the next company, you're going to be alone. And I see many executives who are alone, and nobody follows them.
Thank you.
So I hope that helps, but just...
Thank you. On behalf of Plug and Play, the Persian Tech Network, the Amidi Group, and the Iranian community, I would like to thank you for making your time and coming over here.
Thank you, Mr. Amidi. Thank you so much. Pleasure. Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. All right. And now it's time for your networking. Please use this time judiciously and efficiently. Go and talk to someone and get to know them and learn about what they do. Hopefully that would help your career and your entrepreneurship. Have a good evening.